Hey, you're in for a real treat if you are curious about the mind and psychology when it comes to buying and selling, and particularly how you can use human behavior and psychology to help you guide a sales in an effective way. The video you're about to dive into has been recorded for my business partner, Darcy J. Smythe, who has had over 10 years experience working directly in the field of psychology and human behavior and applying it directly to business and sales, which is rare. And in this video, you're gonna actually unlock all of the key parts that really make a huge difference that Darcy taught me many years ago that made a massive difference to my close rates, my ability to influence and persuade, my ability to book meetings and keep a pipeline full. You're in for a real treat. Sit back, grab your notepad and pen and get ready to dive in. You're gonna enjoy this one.
Ladies and gents, welcome to the final whiskey webinar of the year. How many whiskey webinars have we done this year, Steve? I want to say six. I want to say
seven,
six.
I'd say.
We have had an absolute ball with them. And we've thoroughly enjoyed, more than anything, Steve, I think the laid back, yet highly effective approach to sales mentoring, sales training that comes with enjoying a whiskey as you go. You know, these are called whiskey webinars because it's fun to have a whiskey and all of that. But what it represents is a group of people who know and understand that learning can happen in an environment that is fun, as opposed to learning has to happen a particular way. When we think that learning has to happen a particular way, the more we sort of get all clammed up and we get all nervous and we get fearful and we think, oh, how do I get this right?
Yes.
And the second you start thinking, how do I get this right? You've already lost the game, because there is no way to get it right. There are only ways to improve. There's only ways to get better. And the best way to get better is to have a ton of fun, because when you're having a ton of fun, ultimately what that means is, well, if I stuff it up, I'm going to get up, dust myself off and get going again. That's fun. You know, that's what these webinars have been all about the whole time. And we hope that people take the, shall we say, the essence of these webinars into their sales days the next day, going, man, that was a ton of fun last night on that webinar. How can I transport some of that fun energy to my clients today, to my buyers today? Because really, that's the sort of energy people kind of want to be hanging out in most of the time. So whether they want to be, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've had a blast. And tonight, the final whiskey webinar of the year. I mean, we got nothing left. We got to leave it all on the field, don't we, Steve? We can't leave this webinar with any gusto left in the tank.
It's true.
We're not allowed.
We're not allowed. And it's kind of fun. I like reflecting on this, Darcy, because it was around about, I'm going to say 12 plus months ago, we did the Psychology of Sales 1.0. It didn't even have a number on it. It was just the Psychology of Sales, where you got to unleash a bit of your genius. For those that don't know, Darcy's background is in psychology. A man that is probably more obsessed with what goes on between your ears than I've ever seen in any other human ever. He's found his craft. He's found it early. Then he's got a jump start on the rest of us because he found it when he was 10 years old. So fell in love with it and then went on to study it and then has applied that directly to the world of sales and growth. I flipping love it, mate, because I feel like this webinar, again, is going to be it's going to be the level up on 1.0.
Yes.
But interestingly enough, it's simplifying the complex even more, which means you can run with this and apply it right away.
Yes.
But the coolest part about it is some of the stuff that we're going to be sharing with you tonight, we have developed over the last 12 months by simplifying the things that we've built on over the last decade. The cool part about that is if you're listening to this, please know that literally hundreds and hundreds of salespeople have gone on to apply these strategies that we're going to share with you tonight already.
Yes.
And in our day job, so to speak, 7 a.m. till 7 p.m, we do consulting with companies all around the world and help them hit new records, new sales records, and coach and train sales teams directly. So we hear the positive feedback of it coming as well. So it's awesome to be able to, I suppose, round out 12 to 14 months of learning and testing and applying DAS and then just packaging it into a nice little, here you go. Like, it's going to help you close more deals. It's going to help you get rid of that squeamish, awkward convincer strategy. So
nice.
I'm super keen to dig in.
Let us know, team, in the chat. Well, you know this. We love to get the chat happening. We love to get those aha moments happening. For those of you who joined whiskey webinars before, AHA is those letters you want to be typing. When any time that your mind blows or a light bulb pops, you're like, okay, that's just changed the way I've seen the sales world before. AHA, aha, is what we're going for. But please put in the chat just a Y or a yes. If you've actually done the 6-week Fast Start program previously and you've optimized and utilized and put into business BCOP, BCOP, which is largely what we're going to be, because I'm really curious to know is like half that have done it and half haven't. Yeah, got to get a few rolling in. Sean says, love BCOP. Nelson, yes. Joshua, yes, that's us. Yeah, awesome. Phil, you haven't. Great. I reckon we're going to be around about sort of 60% have, 40% haven't, Steve. And so, team, if at any stage we are going through this webinar, cheers, Tommy. Great to have you on the call. If ever any stage we're going through this call, going through this webinar, and you have an experience with something that we are delivering, and you're like, I've used that part in this way to get this result, please put it in the chat. Set your chat to make sure that it goes to everyone, not just the hosts and panelists, because that just goes to Steve and I. And let people know. The reason you want to let people know is this, not for our sake, not for your sake, but for the sake of the people and the businesses that are in this webinar with you, all trying to get better together. If you let them know how you've used this for success, they then get to go on it and use it in their own industry with their own clients to help people make better decisions. And at the end of the day, that's what all of this is about. If we're here just for ourselves and the focus is only on us and what we can get, you're going to find out in this webinar, it's a losing strategy, but it's also a losing way to be in any form of educational environment, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah.
The best learning happens when we're learning together, as opposed to, I'm just going to take this for me and hoard it. What's the point? That's not what we're here for. So if you've had any experience with it, chuck it in the chat. It's going to help a lot of people.
100%. So we are here. It is the Psychosales 2.0. The goal we have today is to teach you how to master problem-centric selling. And this may be a concept you've heard of before, this idea of problem-centric selling. Let me tell you, when you really dig in and peel the layers of the onion back, it's a deeply psychological game. Hence why I think, having you on the team, Das, to be able to share your insights around this is super, super cool. And that'd be sweet. So how are we going to roll tonight, team? I'm going to be playing a bit of the MC sort of role here and also diving into the different bits of discussion. But really, we want to help you master problem-centric selling and help you to say goodbye to that awkward convincer strategy. You've had that in your sales career and your business before. If you've ever been like, oh, I need this deal. Oh, please, can I just show you why I'm so good at this? If only you would see just how great a value proposition we have, it would all make sense. But it gets squeamish, it gets awkward, it gets gross. So instead, we're going to say goodbye to that forever and instead replace it with a much better way. We want to keep the chat and the questions absolutely firing. We love it. As you know, AHA, aha moments is what we're looking for. That's like a little clock, like wind up toy thing for me and Das. So if you say aha and it's landing, we'll definitely get going and try and give you more. And tonight, being the end of the year giveaway, it is all about giveaways. We want to give you some giveaways tonight as well for those that stick around and enjoy. So we want to get you hooked up for end of year and then make sure you're ready to go for the new year as well. So dig in, enjoy. Let us know in the chat as well what whiskey you've got in hand.
Yeah, what do you got, Steve? Let's kick it off. What do you got?
Well, I have been gifted from one of our great Outbound clients
a
bottle
out to him.
The
great man.
18 years. So it is delicious. It's a blended. It is. I've never had it before, and a massive thank you. You know who you are for sending me and Das a couple of bottles.
Yeah, we appreciate it, mate. You're a legend. Thank you.
We love it. So thank you. Das?
If Dale Faulkner's on the call, he knows I'm a massive fan of these. Anything Balvenie. So I've got the Balvenie Doublewood 12 here. I love it. But I just found today this is the Balvenie, the Week of Peat, aged 14 years. So it's all my favorite Balvenies, with a hint of smoke, with a hint of peat. And I never thought Balvenie would do it. But I came across, it's really good. It's really smooth. You know how sometimes peaty whiskey can be a bit like, it tastes like you're drinking an 85-year-old man at a golf course that, as in...
His sweaty socks.
Yeah, his sweaty socks. It can be a bit like that. This is pure class. This is pure class. So it's good. I'm loving it. But after that, it'll be the Nant. I think that's from Tassie. We got that one, Steve.
Nant's great. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Love to hear it. Awesome.
Cheers, Dale.
I'm super keen, Das. Let's
dig in. All right. Nothing left on the field, Steve. No gusto left. Impossible. No. All right. Beautiful. Okay. So, team, the big problem that we have when it comes to understanding the psychology of sales, the big thing that we need to realize is that we're running into a problem. And the problem that we're facing, or the dragon that we're aiming to slay, that monster we're looking to kill, finally, once and for all, is that problem where we realize we've got massive value to offer to the market. None of us here on this webinar, and I know 99% of people on this webinar, either through LinkedIn or personally, or we've worked together or whatever it is, 99% of people on this webinar are the type, and I only say 99 because sometimes you can't get 100. If I could say 100, I would. But most people are going to be in that position where they're like, I am at a company where I am proud, or at least happy, or at least even then satisfied with what it is I'm selling. I like what I sell. If I didn't like what I sell, or I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't be here. And the only reason I know to believe in it is because I believe in my heart of hearts that it gives my buyer a return on investment, meaning what they pay for my product or service, whatever they pay for that, they're going to get back more so. That's what I believe about my product or my service. Okay. Now, that's all well and good. The problem with it, though, is that our buyer doesn't see it that way yet, or they don't see it the way that we see it yet. And so therefore, what we find ourselves doing is feeling like we need to actually convince people or persuade people of the value that we bring to the world. And it's almost like we see it through this lens of, if they don't buy from me, then the thing isn't valuable. Therefore, I'm not valuable. Therefore, have I done it wrong? I need to find a way to close this deal so that I can feel as though I'm good here, that I've got my job, that I'm good at sales, that I'm selling the thing, that I'm making money, that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. And ultimately, what we find ourselves in team, and this is the ultimate problem that this webinar, this psychology of sales, is going to solve for you, is we find ourselves in that convincer mode. And the convincer mode team for the rest of this webinar is the enemy. That's who we're going into battle against. That's who the war is against for the next 2 hours, is the convincer in you that feels as though the only way that you can make sales, or the only way you're going to close deals, is if you can somehow talk about your thing in a shiny enough way that'll make some light bulb go off in your buyer's brain that goes, oh yeah, I like the sound of that actually now. Hey, I'll take 3, okay? It doesn't work. It never happens.
It never happens.
And we intuitively know it doesn't happen, Steve.
Yeah.
Yet we still continue to find ourselves doing it. There's even conversations that we've had. Please put this in the chat if you've experienced this. You've had conversations with buyers where in your mind, you can hear yourself going, shut up. Why am I still speaking? Whilst you're actually speaking. And you're like, why am I doing it? Why am I continuing to speak? Why am I asking these questions? Why am I saying this thing? Why don't I just stop talking? Yet you keep talking. Okay. It's very common. It's a very common experience for salespeople that haven't understood problem-centric selling. Okay. We got a lot of yeses and a truth, unfortunately. Oh, that's from you, Steve. That's great. And this is the thing, Steve, is even in our sales walks, in our sales journeys, we've been there so often.
Right.
And I believe what happens, Steve, is it's a beautiful thing that occurs, is you get to this point where you've done it one too many times. Yeah. And you're like, there has to be another way. This just can't be sales. This can't be it. I can't be spending my time in my career in sales trying to polish the car enough so that it looks shiny enough for someone to buy it. There's got to be a point where I stand where I am in the belief of the value that I have, and people start selling themselves to me. Yeah. What is that click? What's that light bulb that's going to go off? And ultimately, that's why we're here tonight. That's the problem we're solving tonight. Give us a yes in the chat if it sounds like something worth learning.
And I think it's an appropriate way to kick it off, Das, because like, man, if you're going to write a note today, if you're going to take something from this webinar, take it right now in terms of this. Drop the convincer strategy for good from this day forth. Just don't do it. You know it. I know it. We know it. It doesn't work. And in fact, do the exact opposite. Whenever you're in an environment where you feel that ugly, that yucky convincer trying to come out of you, remember this webinar and go, no, I'm not interested in that game anymore. It does not work. And it's such an important mindset to have going into it, Das. I think it's a really great way to think it. I found this like little gross stock image, right? Because it's kind of like this sometimes in sales, right? It's like the buyer's like smiling at you. You're turning up like as a salesperson, you're in your head going, boy, do I need this deal. Man, if only I could say enough of the right things. And the buyer's just going, man, you sound like a salesperson. Man, this sounds like a needy sort of, yeah, you're right, Josh. The Mr. Convincer needs a name.
What's his day look like? Yeah.
I love it. So that's such an important thing. The convincer strategy is the enemy. And so what happens is if you play the convincer strategy, if you try and say all the right things and make your thing shiny enough, the problem is we get in this spreadsheet race to the bottom price game. We get this comparison game because so many sellers are focusing on their product, on their service, on what they do. And then they spend most of their time talking about why it's so great. But your buyer does not care yet. But if we do that, if we continue to point to product, if we continue to point to our thing, let's call it the widget. We've all got a widget that we're selling, right? If we continue to point to the widget, what happens to the market is they start to go, all right, well, let me analyze this widget, but through my own eyes, not yours. You're going to say everything that's great about the widget because you have to. You're a salesperson. But let me view the widget through my eyes. So they naturally do two things. One, they start to poke holes in everything that your widget doesn't do, cannot do, will not do, price not good, price too high, which makes you want to convince them even more. No, but no, if only you knew, which makes them want to poke more holes in it. And so two options happen. You get in this weird flywheel where the more they poke holes, the more you try and convince, which makes them even realize you're even more needy. Or they go, all right, well, let me grab your widget and let me compare it to all the other widgets. And this is why you feel out of control. This is why you hear clients saying, let me get back to you. This is why you hear clients saying, I'm just waiting on, leave it with me. No new updates. I'll let you know, Das, when something changes. And you get into this weird zone where you're like, man, I would love to know the truth. Man, I would love to know what's going on. Boy, I would love this deal. I just feel out of reach. Your buyer just pushes you in the forehead. We're going to completely undo that. No more line items on spreadsheets. No more your widget versus their widget. No more you trying to make your thing shiny and great. No more, the more they poke holes in it, the more you try and make it sound good. We got to do the exact opposite. And so that's what we're here to do tonight.
That's good. Steve, you often talk about that being that line on a spreadsheet is such a demoralizing place to be, because ultimately what it says is you're a number on my screen. Your words in a little box. You're not a human being. You're just a salesperson, and I'll treat you as like a calculator that I can manipulate and change for how I want to change, and I'll hold you at bay, and when I'm ready, I'll talk to you. Ultimately, that's not how the world actually works, okay? So the universe is always in perfect balance, meaning the value that you have to give to the world is similar to the value that you will happily take back, and vice versa. And so if you as the salesperson are giving away more than you're getting back, you'll start to feel resentment. If you're on the other side of that equation, you'll start to feel guilt. And so until things are resentment, guilt, now we're even. Now we're actually good. Okay. Buyers intuitively know this as well. The only thing is salespeople have let it happen because they've let their job role, define them as I'm in sales, so my job is to get the sale, meaning I'm here to get the most sales I possibly can with no regard for the right sales to make. And when you're looking for the right sales to make, you get a word back in your vocabulary that so many salespeople have let go of. It's a two-letter word called no. And when good one, Dale. And when you have no in your toolkit and you can be the one who turns the buyers away and says, hey, I have concerns about this. Buyer's like, what? You have concerns? I'm the one who's meant to have concerns. No, I have concerns. My concerns are you won't be able to blah. My concerns are that when it comes to this, you'll blah. My concerns are whatever it is. When you have your concerns and you specialize in what you know really well, you are free to turn people away. Now that takes faith and a jump or a leap, doesn't it, Steve?
Yep.
But ultimately, it's this funny thing that happens when you start to be the one who goes, I can turn buyers away and I have the ability to do that and to say no. This funny, weird little magical thing starts to happen where they all start convincing themselves to you. The strategy to how to do that, we're going to go through in this webinar together. That's what all of it is. But please, first of all, believe it's possible. And I can't even believe I'm saying that. I have to convince salespeople that it's okay for you to say no. That's a weird world we're living in. That's not okay. The fair exchange is so out of whack between buyers and sellers that sellers have forgotten how to say no. Tonight's all about how to do it with class and strategy.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that the key point here down the bottom, Das, and you've helped me see the world through this lens, or at least the buying and selling world in this lens, this whole power need type concept. Mm-hmm. And really that's I think the simplest way to kind of see your sales approaches, because I want to make it nice and practical, Das. I want to continually try and give little like tidbits, so to speak, right?
Love it.
So a couple of little tidbits so far. Number one, are you sensing, like just replay some of your sales conversations over the last week or 2 weeks. First question is, do you sense this convincing strategy coming out for you? Okay, that's question number one. Be aware of it. Have I been trying to convince people lately?
That's question number one. Question number two is, do you have the word no in your vocabulary? Cool. Do you have the word no in your vocabulary? If you've answered yes, I'm convincing, and no, I don't know how to say no well, please know that you'll spend most of your life in need.
What's that look like, Steve?
Well, what you've taught me, Das, I'm using your words here. In any single conversation, in any sort of interaction, in any sort of problem-solving environment, i.e., selling, someone will have all the power and someone will have all the need. In a traditional environment, we would assume, or at least the market assumes, that the buyer has all the power because they have one thing that we want. Put it in the chat if you guess what that might have. Money. Yeah. Money, the sweet moolah. Therefore, we assume that the seller must be in need because they don't have the money. But what we fail to realize is in any given transaction, there is an exchange that happens. And I don't know about you, I think that there's more money in the world than there is of your thing, your widget. And so we've got this whole thing back to front. We think that the mighty dollar is the most powerful thing. Therefore, our buyers always have the power and we always have the need. It's not true. It's the exact opposite. Because what would happen is if you had all the money in the world, but you could no longer exchange it for anything. I don't care how much money you have, you're going to be broke. You're going to act as if you're broke because you have no wealth. Wealth is about exchange. You can have all the money in the world, but if you can't exchange it for anything, what we want to see the world through, team, is that anytime you've won a deal, you've been in power and your client has been in need, and rightfully so, because they've come to you with a problem to solve. And so start to be aware. I think so much of this, Das, is like step one is just having the awareness of, am I trying to convince? Is it impossible for me to say no? And can I be aware of this dynamic of power and need and read that room quickly? It's one of the, maybe the unspoken things we haven't really dug into deep enough, Das, I think, is the awareness phase is one of the most important, because if you go into a scenario and you're aware that your buyer's like, all right, what do you got for me then, Das?
I love that one.
Team? How many times have you had a buyer or a client like this, team, where straight off the bat, they're like, all right, dance for me.
Oh, let's see what you got for me. Right.
Let's see what we got.
You got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
You tell me. Don't play that game anymore. And the way we handle that, Das, is anyone says, all right, well, what do you got for us, guys? I don't know. What's your problem? Legitimately, we say it like that, but we're going to teach you how to do it with class. We're going to teach you how to do it with a strategy, but so much of it is that awareness of power and need. So much of it, I think, is that key point. So we're going to help you get the power back, which is great, because actually the market, the buying market actually wants to be in need. They do. They're coming to you because they want you to solve a problem for them. They know they're in need. They just sometimes play the power game to try and make your widget cheaper. Starting to see it? Starting to see how they use it, team?
So let's dig in, team. Let's dive right in. So many of you who have attended session 3 of the 6-week fast start will be familiar with some of the stories we're about to tell here. But if you're like me, I strongly believe that learning it once is a good thing. Learning it the second time starts to drop a lot of light bulbs, and learning it the third time can be revelatory. Dig in, take the notes, and any extra, as we say, extra thoughts you've had, or any time you've used what we have covered before, please put it in the chat for other people to learn from. So the first thing to start with is this, team. Let's dive into the brain. It is a beautiful organ. So the first thing to realize here is this, team. Please write this down. If you take no note tonight other than this one, that's totally okay. It needs to be this one though. The brain itself is an organ. It's just an organ of the body that is designed to do one thing and one thing only, and that is create and then solve problems. So it either creates the problem or finds it, and then it solves that problem, and then it likes to give itself a pat on the back for solving the problem that it created. It is the most fascinating organ in the body for that reason, in that it just loves to look for and find problems. What we like to imagine is this. The brain operates by the rule of human behavior 101, which is this. Everyone's favorite topic on the planet is themselves. And that's not from a selfish perspective. That's not from like a self-centered, egotistical perspective, not in a negative term, so to speak, but just in a way that suggests, like when you're on an airplane, it's important that you put your mouthpiece on first. If it's crashing, you put your oxygen mask on first, then you help others. Because if you don't have your oxygen mask on first, you can't help anyone. You're done for. Okay. So the brain loves to know, well, it's all about self-preservation. I need to take care of me first, then others. That's normal. Plants do this, cows do this, humans do this, all have a nervous system in their own little way. And so the brain is no different. It believes that the most important thing in this world is you, and it loves you, by the way. It thinks you are the most incredible thing on this planet because it just wants to be able to solve problems for you. That's all it's designed to do. Okay. Now we say that the heart loves to beat, and it just does. That's what the heart is here to do. The heart came to planet Earth and was just like, you know what? I found this thing like, it's kind of like drums. And all I do is just beat all day. I love it. Even when Steve's sleeping, I just get to keep beating and he doesn't even wake up to it. It's awesome. I love this, right? The heart just loves to beat. It's what it's here to do. The lungs, they're just sitting there just breathing all day, just loving it, loving the process, loving taking it in, loving putting it out. And then every time it goes out, they love it because they know it's coming back in again. And it does that like thousands of times a day. And it'll do it for like 78 years. It's Frost the idea of doing it. Okay. Now the brain itself, what it loves to do is solve problems. That's what it's here to do. Okay. Now, please put in the chat. It's always an interesting thing to ask people at this stage. Is anyone here, just please put this in the chat so we can resonate with each other? Because I know in sales, it's very quite common. Is anyone, Andrew, we'll get to that in a second. Steve doesn't know that story is coming because he doesn't know a lot about session 3, which is great. Is anyone here an overthinker? Meaning you put your head on the pillow at night and your thoughts just race, like they just churn and you get just like over and over and problem and whatever. And sometimes even thoughts come out where you're like, that thought isn't even me. Like, what the hell?
Where'd that come from?
What was that? And who was talking then? And is that my childhood? Is that my future? Did I close the garage door? Kurt has sleeping nailed. I love it. So we've got a lot of yeses. It's very common in the sales world because the clues were all amongst us the entire time, team. We spend all day solving problems with our brain, whether we like it or not. It's been happening. Okay. And so you get to bed on a particular night and you lay your head on and the brain's like, oh, I'm not done, bro. I'm not done by a long shot. Thank you very much. I still got all these Sudokus I need to finish. I got all these crosswords I need to do. You gave me a lot of work to do today, Das. So I'm just going to keep talking. All right.
You had a lot of conversations around problems today.
That's it. Yeah. So I've got all this work to do. Okay. So that's just the brain doing its thing. Now, for those of you that said yes, you don't have to put this in the chat, but for those of you that said yes, most likely when that overthinking happens, what you really want ultimately is for the overspeaking to stop because it's annoying and you think it's a problem. But ultimately, please understand this. It's not a problem in any way. And in fact, wanting it to stop is actually what will only cause it to happen even more so. Because not only now do you have the 8 or 9 problems rumbling around your brain, you just added a 10th because you said, I have the problem to solve of solving this. Okay. And so that'll just continue to keep the talking going. It's very fascinating that way. So the key is actually to lean into it further. If your brain's like, wow, I'm overthinking, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try and think even more. And the reason that works is this, team. What I want you to do is imagine that you are trying to stop your heart from beating. Steve, you try and stop your heart from beating. What do you do with your body? You just be like, hey, hey, oh. And you try and hold on to it, right? But what does that, Steve, what does that do to the heart?
Yeah, put stress on it.
And does what to it? Slows it down or speeds it up?
It speeds it up.
Speeds it up, right? And so the lungs are like this. The lungs, they work this way. It's fascinating. Try and hold your breath because you want to stop breathing. And ultimately what ends up happening, it eventually goes, and you breathe even more, right? And so the key, if you want to stop breathing, Steve, is do this. Try and breathe. Breathe really hard. And eventually you'll find you run out of breath. And so the opposite happens. This is fascinating, right? If you want to get to sleep tonight, try and stay awake. If you want to stay awake tonight, try to go to sleep. You'll find that everything will get taken care of and the opposite will occur. Okay. Now the brain is exactly the same. So if you want to solve problems or if you want to stop the brain from overthinking, dive deeper into the thinking. And eventually you'll find without even realizing it, you'll be asleep. And it'll have stopped. Okay. It's fascinating that way, isn't it? All right. Yet so many salespeople have said here, yet so many salespeople still focus on features and benefits of their product, thinking that's where the money is made, but it's made in problems. And I'll show it to you. I'll show you how this works. Team, what I want you to imagine is this. You've just finished and we've got November coming up. Like end of November's coming. 17th of November today. What I want you to imagine is that for the rest of the month, you absolutely crush it in sales. You've had the best month you've ever had. And it's like the 30th of November, the final day of the month. And everyone's just chanting and cheering your name. Absolutely loving you for it. Just going, Nigel Sanderman, Nigel Sanderman. Yeah, Kurt Jensen, Curty boy. Woo. Like loving it. Tommy Cartwright, Tommy, like everyone's loving you. Everyone at the office like, yes, you nailed it, man. You're good. And you're like, you know what? Yeah, I did do pretty well. Thanks, guys. All right. Yeah, cheers. Woo, yeah. Right. And then you look at your pipeline and you're like, oh, I just hit a record month. And like for the next 7 months, they look like record months too. Like this isn't just a 1 month thing. Like my future is bright. This is good. And so you're walking out of the office and you're like, man, this is great. Your boss hands you a bottle of champagne and like ushers you out the door, just being like, well done, man. Great work. Hey, thanks for being a part of the team. We all love you. You're great. Thanks for setting us all up for success. You're like, no problem. Hey, life is pretty good. I like this. You call your partner at home. Listen, honey, I've had a really good month. And so I was kind of wondering, is it kind of okay if like I just, spent the night by myself and just like went and had a nice night and just, treated myself and went out and just, I don't know, I'll grab an Airbnb and, next to the mountain or the beach or both, whatever you want, like the mountain next to the beach because life is perfect. And your partner comes back with, oh, you know what? I was just thinking the exact same thing. You haven't had any time to yourself in ages. You go for it. Hey, I just transferred $1,000 into your account. Don't worry, I won it on the pokies today. So it's completely free. It's all yours. We didn't even pay for it. You can have it. You know what? The kids are almost in bed. They had a great day. Dog's been fed. So it's perfect. Life is good. And you're like, wow, thank you. Thank you so much. Wow. Okay, I'm going to go do that. So what you do is you hire your favorite car. There's this one Ferrari you've always had your eyes on. You're like, I've always just wanted to drive the thing. You call the guy and he's like, yeah, I've got one left. Actually, it's got your name on the number plate for some weird reason. You should hire it today. And you're like, all right, I will. Thank you. You drive and like press the CD player and your favorite song comes on out of nowhere because of course it did. Anyway, you drive to the spot, you drive to the hotel, you sit there, you're sitting on the deck overlooking the beach and the mountains and you got yourself a whiskey in hand and it's a fresh ice block and you're all sorted. And you look across and you're like, man, this is living. This is living, Barry. This is living. Right. And all of a sudden you sit there and you're like, for 10 seconds, you're like, all right, this is good. I like it. A minute goes by and still good. Whiskey's half finished, but we can all live with that. There's more whiskey on the bench. And you're like, oh, good. But then team, after around about 3 minutes, if you sit quietly enough with yourself, you'll start to notice that as always, the brain has started to create problems because it starts to come up with things. Please put a note in the chat if you can imagine anything that your brain might come up with then, just as an example. I'll start with a few, but keep them coming in the chat. So the brain sits there and it goes, ice block's gone a little bit halfway there, hasn't it? Oh, but it's all right, actually, because ice blocks, they melt all the time. It's part of the whiskey thing, so it's all good, right? So the brain has just done it. It's just created a problem. It's found a problem and then gone, nah, it's actually okay because blah. And so it's solved the problem. And then it gives itself a little pat on the back for the job it just did, all right? Tom just said this. You're like sitting there and you're like, this is good. This is nice. Yeah, is that a single goosebump on my arm? Maybe the aircon's a little bit. Is the aircon at the right? I'll go check the temperature. I'll go check it. Oh, no, it's 24 degrees. No, that's about right. That's probably what it should be. I'll just put a jumper on. And so the brain has created a problem, then solved it, then patted itself on the back. Next thing it does is it goes, my partner sounded really supportive on the phone and they were great, but I've heard this before when they said that things were okay. Are they okay? I'll give them a quick call. And so you call them up. Hey, honey, you're all good if I'm here. Yeah, all good. And they're like, yeah. But I'm almost headed to bed. Are you having a good night? I'm totally fine. You're like, yeah. No worries. I'm good. All right. You have a great one. See ya. You hang up and you're like, yeah, I'm all good. Life is good. And the brain will continually do this. It'll come up with new problems, then solve them, and then go, and that relief feels good. And so we do it over and over and over and over again, right? But that's the brain. That's all it's meant to do. Don't ask it to do anything else. That's exactly what it's designed to do, because asking it to do anything else is like asking the heart not to beat. And of course, that's what has occurred, okay? Nigel just said a DUI can happen even in a Ferrari. Good one. I love it. Okay, now, the brain itself, really, what the point that it's at is going, man, my favorite topic on the planet is myself. And even the best topic about me is when we're talking about problems. I love it when people talk about problems, okay? So what I want you to imagine is this. Does anyone remember, just put in the yes in the chat, do you remember like birthday parties when you were 5 or 6 years old? Do you remember like running around with all these wild kids when you're, all playing backyard cricket, all running around the pirate ship at McDonald's or whatever it was? What we tend to find at birthday parties is all the focus is on the little kid. The kid is like, yeah, little Henry, good on ya. Great, Henry. This day is all about you. What cake would you like? And Henry's like, yeah, I would like this and I would like that, right? And then we get to the point of the birthday party where we're opening the presents. And everyone's like, come on, everyone, gather around now. Little Henry's going to open his presents, isn't he? And everyone's like, yeah, Henry, go, Henry. I remember when this was my birthday party, I get to do this, but now you get to, yay, go. And he's like, yeah, I love this, right? And he's opening the presents. The same thing happens in the brain. When we're talking to people about themselves, it's like the brain is having a birthday party. Yes, go me. Everyone's here for me. This is awesome. I love me. This is good. I'm important, right? And then the moment we go, now let's talk about the problems that you're experiencing, and people are given the opportunity to actually express and explore that on a surface level or a deeper level, whatever's required. It's like that point in the birthday party where we're finally getting to open up the presents. And so it's the ultimate moment of the year for the brain. The best part of the year is your birthday, and the best part of that day is when people are giving you presents. That's it to the brain. I get to have the conversations about me, and I get to solve problems. Count me in. Now, what most people do, Steve, it's fascinating to watch, is people come up to the brain. Now that we know this about the brain, all right, team, this is fascinating. Now that we know this about the brain, compare that to this. Imagine going up to the brain and saying, hey, brain, we've got a new offer out. It's 20% off. Are you interested? It's kind of like going up to the heart and saying, hey, heart, do you want to mow my lawn? The heart's like, I'm not here for that. I beat. That's all I do. Oh, really? You can't mow my lawn? No, I don't even know what a lawn is, man. I beat. That's all I do. Same thing when you go up to the brain and you talk about your offer or your product or your service and you try and convince it that it's a good thing. The brain's like, you speak in Mandarin and I speak English. That's really where we're at right now. You're not talking my language. Classic example is this. Imagine any classic problem-solving board game, Steve. Say chess or checkers. Let's go with checkers. Everyone knows checkers, right? You're sitting there playing checkers, right? You got the board in front of you. And checkers is a classic problem-solving game. It's just addition and algorithm, right? And so you're sitting there looking at the checkers board as the brain, and someone comes along in your ear and says, hey, brain, you want to take a look at our new range, our new products? 20% off. And the brain looks at the person and just goes, what? I'm trying to solve a problem here, man. Get out of here. Get out. Which is exactly what people experience from their buyers. And so they should, because the buyer is like, get out of my world. You're not speaking my language. They don't know this. That's what turns them away. Then the person says, oh, yeah. If you don't take advantage of it, though, it's going to be gone by the end of November. And the brain's like, yeah, I don't care, man. I'm sitting there playing a board game. I got a problem to solve here. Hang on, come back later or something. Just don't come back. Just talk to my assistant. They'll book in a call. Go away. This is exactly what happens, right, Steve? Sitting there playing, and then someone comes along and goes, the right person who gets it.
What are you working on there, bro?
Yeah, someone comes along and goes, hey, bro, don't know if you noticed, but if they're about to jump you twice and then king up, if you don't put your checker here, that's going to be a real problem for you. And the brain goes, what? Oh, come here. Show me. What did you just see? Let's talk. Yeah. Let's create a relationship, because now you've finally spoken to the brain in the language that it wants. Okay.
That's so
got plenty of ahas coming through, which is great to see.
Good, bro. That's so good.
So the key becomes, how do we talk about solving problems? The game is problems. Team, just give us a yes in the chat if that has landed. If that's landed, we'll continue on with the next part. But give us a Y or a yes in the chat if you're like, yes, I get it. The brain got it. Solving problems. Awesome. They're flying through. Anything to add there, Steve?
Well, it just makes so much sense. Like we started this session talking about the convincer strategy.
Yep.
When you paint that analogy of the checkers board and someone being like, hey man, this deal's only good until November, it just makes total sense as to why the convincer strategy just never absolutely works. It's equivalent to that. Like literally the analogy you just spelled out was that in real time.
Yes.
Oh, but it's really good. It would be like that. It's like, man, I'm playing checkers. Can you just leave me alone?
Yes.
Or at least if you're going to be here, can you talk about what I'm clearly trying to solve right now?
Yes. Yep.
So good, mate. It's such a simple concept, but like, I think this is why the chat's blown up with ahas and so good. It's like, it's like of course. It makes so much sense when you put it like that. So big fan of that, bro. Really cool.
Nice.
On a side note, keep that analogy going, because I like that.
Yeah. It's a good one. Okay. So how do we move forward here? How do we turn this problem-solving aspect into something that starts to become quite practical for you? Okay. And the key here is to realize that sales, ultimately, please write this down, is all about them. It's all about our buyer. Put a yes in the chat if you've heard that like 100 times before. Like I'll put the first yes. I put a US yes. I got a ton. Like I've heard that so many times before. It's make sales all about them. It's all about them. And so what people do, Steve, is they convince themselves, or they've been tricked into thinking, oh, not so much tricked, that's probably putting it the wrong way, but they've come to believe that what that means is to walk up to a buyer and say, oh, hey, I like the jacket you're wearing. Oh, hey, I saw you're a football fan. I'm also a football fan. See, I'm making it about you. Aren't I a good salesperson? Like, that's okay. It's really petty stuff. Really, in the big scheme of sales, if those are the strategies we're relying on, we're missing the point of the way the brain works. That's okay. There's just something to be learned. Okay. So if the motive is to get, you'll always become the convincer. Okay. So making it about them so that you can get something is still you trying to get something. Okay. But if your motive is to give, you'll have the truth on your side, and the truth is undefeated. Steve's going to go into that in a second for us. But ultimately, what we want to look at is this: making it about them. How do we define that? And the definition of that is this: when we make it about them, we give them value. We add value to their world. Now, the next question after that should be, well, righto, Dus, then what is value? And as we're about to see on the next slide, the thing with value is it's defined by the problem that we're solving, not the product, not the service, not the jacket that you're wearing, none of that. The value in something is found in the size of the problem that it is solving. Meaning, when it comes to hunger, the value of a sandwich goes through the roof if I haven't eaten in 10 days. My hunger is massive. Therefore, the value of your sandwich is huge. Whereas if I just ate dinner, then the value of the sandwich is nil. You probably couldn't pay me to eat it. I'm full. I can't do it. Nothing's changed about the product. Nothing's changed about the sandwich. The size of the hunger got bigger, and therefore the value of the sandwich got greater. Okay. So, and Kurt's just said, aha, this happens to me every day. Always hungry. I love that. Yeah. Okay. So we're about to get that in a second, but Steve, I just want you to touch base on the power of the truth is undefeated and how we use that to our advantage in sales, because it's a field of mastery more of yours than I could ever dare to do justice to.
Oh, thank you, man. But I just got these couple of nuggets of wisdom from my late pa when I asked him some pretty simple questions, which was, what's your greatest lesson in life, pa? Pretty easy one to answer. He stopped and thought for a while, but he gave me one particular answer. And then when I dug into it a little bit more, he gave me a little bit more of an insight to it. But the first response was, Steve, pay attention to the nudges. That was his first golden nugget. And that pay attention to the nudges was really interesting. And we're all aware of this. We all have nudges. We all have those, it's in here, a bit lower down, kind of like in here, right? It's these little nudges of like, this doesn't seem right, or this person doesn't seem that interested, or whatever it may be. We all have nudges every single day. And so I prodded and pried on that for a little while. I said, like, Pa, what do you mean? He gave me some examples, simple things like, when you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you get a random name or person in your head, you should action that.
Nice. Like send them a text or give them a call.
Send them a text, give them a call, like more of those type of moments. But then I kind of prodded a little bit more and I'm like, well, what's that all about though? And he started on this concept of truth. Like, this is this interesting thing. But he said these lines, he says, the truth is undefeated. And if you align to it, you can't lose. And I like that a lot. And a lot of people say to us, Steve, what's the right words to say though to get to this problem thing? What's the right words to say? It's not that at all. You can never get the right words. What's more pure is the intention behind it, and then you say what is true. Here's an example. Oh, Steve, Dus, I don't know how to do that follow-up call with that client because I'm really not sure how to ask them, a pretty blunt question. How do I do it? And we say to them, you've just got the answer. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, that's truthful, right? You don't know how to ask them a blunt question. It's making you feel uncomfortable. Well, tell them that. Here's how it sounds. Hey, Das, been thinking about this for a while. In fact, I asked a few people before I even called you. Anyway, they got to a point where they're saying, just ask. So I did. This might sound strange. This might sound blunt. I just want to know, man, where are you at with this? That is the most authentic thing. And you will never lose with that strategy because it is the truth. We were talking, to our mentor this afternoon. He's like, telling the truth is uncomfortable, but you'll always have your integrity in place and you can rebuild from that.
Yes.
So it's a really, really cool part. If your motive is to give, that's the truth that can come out as well. It's an intention that you bring. And the intention that you bring is way more powerful than any word you can craft. Don't believe me? You've seen enough politicians talk to you over the last 18 months saying all the right words? I don't even have to go any further into that. You know when people are saying all the right words, but the intention is not pure. We all know that in any industry. I don't care who it is. But when the intention is pure and it's like, man, I just want to help you, Das. I want to help you solve a problem here. And if there's no problem to solve, that's cool. I can't help you. That's going to close you way more deals than trying to say the right things.
Yeah, and you don't even live in Victoria. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. That's really funny.
Yeah, it's just really, that's anyway. Yeah, that's super good.
You know what? Let's derail this entire webinar and let's talk politics. You know what? Let's go there. Stuff it. I'm in.
We'll wheel it back. We'll wheel it back.
Wheel it back.
But team, this is what you were talking about just before, Das, and I love this. But it's true, you know, even the greatest sandwich in the world is useless in the hands of the legend who just finished dinner. Yeah, and this is true. We've all been to great restaurants. You've had way too much sourdough. You've eaten a fair share of entrees. You've had 4 whiskeys and a main. And you're like, I know that dessert looks so damn good. Like literally, I'll have one mouthful, but I'm not even interested. I'm just not even interested, even though it looks so attractive sitting on that plate.
Even though the features and benefits of the chocolate mousse.
Oh, and the way they did the flame thing and yeah, it's great. It's great, but I'm stuffed. Literally, I'll feel sick. I'll ruin main course by eating this. But the next day, you're starving. You've got that 9:30 p.m. sweet tooth craving. That same dessert comes out. You'll be like, oh, unbelievable. Wow, this is so delicious. Exactly the same dish. Exactly the same dish.
And all that's changed is the size of the hunger.
And that's our game. What's the size of the hunger? What's the problem? What is it exactly that we're looking to solve for?
Love it. So team, now what we want to do is we're going to get strategic. Everyone pour yourself another whiskey. I just poured, we've moved on now to the Balvenie Doublewood. It's a classic, isn't it, Steve? It's one of the faves.
You can't go wrong with the Doublewood.
You can't go wrong with the Balvenie Doublewood 12. She's beautiful.
I don't know who said it before, but I'm going there. Whoever said that these Dewar's 18 years is one of the most underrated, awesome whiskeys. I agree with you. This is...
Yeah, nice.
You will love this stuff.
Yeah, great. Thank you to the great man who passed him on. He knows who he is. We want to start making this practical for you. So everyone's landed at the point where they're like, okay, Das, okay, Steve, get it. Problem solving. Let's do it. Now let's make it practical. Okay. What we want to start with is what's called the 3-headed monster. And if you've got your pen and paper at the ready, you're going to want to start just jotting a few notes, jotting a few thoughts. Feel free, by the way, to just get this completely wrong. The 3-headed monster team is this. Ultimately, what it is we want to start exploring the 3 problems that we know, the 3 main problems that we know our buyers would be experiencing that moment before they pick up the phone to us, or if we do a lot of outbound, if we're to connect with them and the relationship does start to unfold, what typically would be the problem that they'd be experiencing that would allow that relationship to start unfolding. Because if they don't have a problem, as we've just learned, then they're not really going to act on anything. They're not going to move forward. So anytime you have moved forward with someone, chances are there was a problem that it was solving for you. Okay. Now, what we want it to be is we want it to be vague enough to be agreeable. Means that you got like this triangle of problems that you know that no matter whatever it is, whatever your client is coming to you with, their chances are they're gonna fall into that triangle somewhere. There's gonna be a problem that they fall into. Okay, but we want to make it specific enough to show your expertise and make it specific to your industry. So what we want to do here is Steve and I are going to give you our 3-headed monster, and we've got another slide for Outbound, Steve, the Outbound 3-headed monster. But don't go back. You're right. You're all good. Go back to the previous slide. We will give you the 3-headed monster for our consulting, which is different to our 3-headed monster for Outbound. And all we want you to do is just feel how this feels to feel. Okay. You don't take any notes at this stage. Just to hear what it sounds like to have a 3-headed monster pitched to you, because ultimately you are salespeople. You're all salespeople on this call. Some of you are in leadership positions. And so when you hear this, you'll be like, okay, all right. So that's what it sounds like when you get it right. That's how it feels to know that I'm their ideal buyer and they've crafted this 3-headed monster pretty directly for me. Okay, so here's how it sounds. Typically, team, people come to Steve and I for sales training when they're experiencing 1, 2, or even all 3 of these 3 problems. The first problem is this. They've got what's called roller coaster sales results, meaning they've got 1 month up, then 3 months down, then another month up, then 2 down, then 4 up, then 1 down, then 3 down, then 2 down, then 1 up. And ultimately what that leads to is just a lack of predictability in their business, because that makes it hard to innovate and grow if you can never really truly see what's coming around the corner, if you've got no predictability there in your sales results. Second problem is this: a hit and hope or a winging it approach to closing deals. What that means is that you rock up, you try and close deals. Sometimes you close them, sometimes you don't. When you do, you don't really know why you did or how you did. When you don't, you really don't know why you didn't or how you didn't. And really, there's no set system, structure, or process for knowing how to find, nurture, and close deals that allows everyone in the team to sing from the same songbook. Third is this: leadership and management forever feel the need to drive and inspire their team, as opposed to having their team driven and motivated from within. Hey, so I'm curious, is any of that going on for you? Now, please put a yes in the chat if the sales team that you're in has experienced any of that, 2 of that, 3 of that. Now, we always get the chat blowing up because we know our market. We know you, and we just give you full transparency on this team. Like, you're our market. You're who we're here to serve. So we know that whenever we bring that up, and this is why the chat always just goes with a yes, we know when we bring that up that you're going to resonate with that. And you're like, yeah, that's definitely it. That's definitely what's going on for me. Now, chances are you're going to say something along the lines of, yeah, totally. We got the first one. We got roller coaster sales results. My response to that is going to be something along the lines of, oh yeah, tell me more. How so? Let me know. And they will say, yeah, look, what you said about the thing, like this month we're good and last month we were good, but the 2 before that were trash. And I don't know really how the pipeline's looking for next month. Fair enough. Interesting. Can you tell me any more about that? We never know how next month's going to go. Our pipeline management is just shocking. It's awful, right? How long's that been going on for? How long have you got? So I've been a sales leader here for 3 years, and it's probably been a while, probably the large majority of that, I'd say. Interesting, right? Now, all that I'm asking is questions about them and their problem. I'm not telling them they have a problem. I'm not telling them what's wrong. They're telling me. All I led with was the brain that the language that the brain likes to speak in, which is their problems, which is the 3-headed monster. You met them at the checkers board. Now, that's just one problem. Cool. Did you have any others going on? Yeah, the thing you said about the leadership and the management with the team, I'm always in there trying to whack them with a stick or give them the carrot. What's the go with that? Well, I don't know. You tell me. How's it show up in your team? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I've got a good team, but sometimes I rock up on a Tuesday. It's like they're all hungover. What's the go with that? I don't know. You tell me. Oh, well, yeah.
I went to one of your whiskey webinars and
yeah, that's the problem. Stop sending them to your webinars, boys. That's what this call's about. That's great. Stop sending the emails to the list, boys. You're killing my sales motivation. So that's the key, team, is understanding that when we start the problem with problem-centric discussions, then we start to realize that, okay, that's the brain going, oh, it's my time to shine. Someone finally noticed me in the way I want to talk. So now I'm going to give you all the things I want to talk about. Okay, works a treat. The question starts to become, what is your 3-headed monster? What problems that are vague enough that you know that people will agree with? Example is this, team. When we talk about agreeableness, first problem is this: roller coaster sales results, meaning 1 month is up, 2 months are down, 3 months are up, 4 months are down. I could dance that till we're blue in the face. Notice it wasn't so specific that it was this. So the first problem we solve is roller coaster sales results. What that means is that your November is usually pretty good. Your December is a little bit lower, and then your January is a bit higher. Got any of that going on? They could be like, no. Got it going in other parts of the year though, if you're interested. You're like, nah, sorry, only interested in November, December, and January. Thank you. That's not what we're going for. We want to be vague enough that it's agreeable, but specific enough that it's key to your industry, okay, and key to your expertise. And so the question again is, what are the 3 main problems your buyers are typically experiencing? If you can uncover what your 3-headed monster is, Steve, what would you describe it as? The ultimate tool to take into battle of any sales conversation? It is so powerful.
Totally. Yeah. And if you can set the conversation off early to be problem-centric early, boy, does it make discovery so much better. So much better. And this is the thing, so many salespeople skip over discovery and go straight to presentation. Hey, mate, can you send me your best price on this, this, and this? Yeah, no worries, man. It's got this feature and you can do this. And we talk about this and great. Zero discovery, no problems being started, no problems first. Eddie's asked the question, can the 3-headed monster change as circumstances change?
Answer to that is absolutely. And your 3-headed monster will change as the people that you're selling to change.
Yeah.
So
who's your persona?
who are the personas that you deal with along your sales pipeline? For some people, they have 2, 3, even 4 different people they need to really sell an idea to, sell money to, sell a product to, so whatever it is, sell a relationship to. So you've got to ask yourself, what's the 3-headed monster that we can solve for them that they're experiencing? Please don't go into the 3-headed monster thinking, what's their biggest problems in life that has nothing to do with what you can solve, you know?
These are problems. You want to be talking to the problems that you know you can solve. So a simple way to get started, if you're like, man, where do I start? Think about the features and benefits you brag about. Think about the things that you say are good about you, and then ask yourself this: what is that feature? What is that benefit? What is that actually doing for them? So let's say you're like, oh yeah, we're quicker than everyone else. Okay, that sounds like a salesperson. You're better off saying, hey, we typically work with clients who are forever missing deadlines. Got any of that going on right now? Like, yeah. Or yeah, we kind of work with people that, you know, a lot of them come to us because they've got like supply chain issues. They can't get products they need when they need it. Got any of that going on right now? Oh man, yeah, like all the time. So it's the same thing. We're just looking at the different side of the coin. So instead of saying we're faster than anyone else, we've got more stock than anyone else. That's not the point. The point is you're solving a problem for them. And the problem is I can't get stock and I keep missing deadlines. It's just the opposite effect. It's just going from like, okay, what are those things I'm bragging about? What is that? What's the opposite of that? What's it actually solving? And then having more of the conversation about that than that.
Nice. We're going to go through a few extra examples here, team, just to help drill this home. So example here is this. This is for Outbound. This is for the platform that we run with teams to gamify their sales process and send their team's motivation and productivity through the roof. That's the outcome of it. But if we start our sales conversation saying, hey, so thanks for checking in to find out about Outbound. We want to let you know all the benefits of it. So here we go. And we just become salespeople. Instead, we start it with this. Hey, typically clients come to us to hear a bit more about Outbound because they got 1, 2, or even all 3 of these problems going on. The first problem is you're just flat out missing targets. What that ultimately means is you know the potential is there in your team to smash the targets, but you keep falling short. Usually people finish around about 80 to 85% of their target. That tends to be commonplace in a lot of companies that come to us looking for outbound help. Second problem is this. Second problem is this. You've got inconsistent CRM use. What that means is that the team has the CRM there and they sort of use it from time to time, but usually only when they have to or when it's convenient to them. But you as a leader know that if the CRM were up to date and were being used as a tool to actually help drive revenue, it would send the company's sales results through the roof. Third one is this. And it's the classic one, again, from the consulting, which is leaders are required to drive the team. What that means is leadership and management forever feel the need to drive and motivate the team instead of having the team driven and motivated from within, so that leaders can actually go ahead and focus on the innovation and growth they know they were designed to do for the company. Hey, I'd be curious, is any of that going on for you? Are you finding any of these? And of course, we find every time, because we know our market, buyers go, yeah, geez, that 80 to 85% thing, that's haunted us for years. Or yeah, CRM, you mean there's companies that actually get their team to use the CRM and use it well? Really? You can do that? Yeah, tell us about what's been going on for you. We spent $48,000 investing in this thing just in January this year, and team, just there's no adoption. Really? Tell me more. Oh, I mean, we've got one bloke using it. He's doing well with it, but the others, they couldn't care less. Okay, let's explore that problem. Okay. Again, the focus is then all on the buyer, meaning the favorite topic on the planet in the world is themselves. We're at the birthday party and we've started off talking about problems, meaning the favorite topic in the world about the favorite topic in the world, meaning we're now opening the presents at the party. The brain is happy. Psychology of sales is in motion. Okay, we want to show you another one here. So this is for those of you, many of you are in the project space, meaning a lot of construction, manufacturing, etc. These are some of the problems that we start to see come up. So maybe you want to steal these, flat out steal them. Don't feel as though you need to even change any of the words if you don't want. If this is what resonates with you, great. So we've got, typically our clients come to us because they're experiencing one of these 3 problems. First problem they've got is like quality issues that lead to rework over and over again. Ultimately, it just leads to unhappy clients, warranty claims, lost money, and massive headaches. And headaches are probably the best thing that can happen, right? Second is inconsistent supply. It just leads to long lead times, project delays, and cost overruns. Third is you've got multiple suppliers and trades. And what that actually means is that the whole buying process, the whole project as a whole just becomes complex, time heavy, and annoying to manage because the communication between your different suppliers is really on their terms, not yours. Curious to know, is any of that going on for you? Now, for those of you in the project space, in construction, manufacturing, etc., can you see how this would resonate with some of your buyers? If we were to use this as a three-headed monster, you'd be looking at it going, yeah, that's speaking right to the heart of what a lot of people have got going on. Feel free, again, as we said, to use this as an example, steal it, have it. You want to go with this one, Steve?
Yeah, for sure. So there's another example of like something that could be, in the project space. So, typically our clients come to us because they're experiencing one of these kind of three problems. The first one is you're just seeing massive long lead times or delays against your program. So there's always just a massive rush when it comes to putting together the insert your package here, causing delays on site and LDs. Second thing is you're finding product failures or missing components when you actually get to site. So you're stuck with that. Split deliveries, missing components can be a big whole nightmare. And the third is you're just getting heaps. You're just under pressure, mate. I can see it with limited support. So you're having to do a lot of site measures. You're having to go out and do a lot of this yourself that you just don't have time for at the moment. So curious, how's that going for you? And you'll notice here, team, it's not so much about getting every word right, but knowing your key topics, being yourself through it and creating the scenario where they're like, yeah, it's that. And it can be pretty simple, it can be absolutely anything, but it's really understanding what your top problems are. And Gemma's put in the chat here, I love this. Great piece of advice, Gemma. Well done. So check your testimonials, reviews, and case studies. It can give you an insight into some of the ideas and the problems that your past clients have having or had. I think that's bang on, and particularly your clients will talk to you about what was positive, what worked well. Just ask yourself, what was the opposite of that? And that's probably the problem, because most people won't boast about something good if they haven't had the contrast. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So normally if anyone's boasting about something that worked well for you, just always ask, well, what's the opposite of that? It's highly likely they've experienced that negatively on the past, which means them and their people have also done it as well. So you can grab that. A lot of it's just like listening. It's just like, honestly, just asking people. And if you're really not sure, here's the easiest way to start. Ring up your best 5 clients, 10 clients, and ask them this question. Hey, I'm doing some research and I really want to know more about the industry. Hey, can you tell me, when it comes to working with people like us, what grinds your gears? What has been problems that you've run into in the past? Where has it gone terribly? What's the things that are keeping you up at night? I just really want to understand more about you and your role and what you're facing every day. Now, remember, this is your best clients that you've already done with. They're going to be happy to share with you and be like, wow, mate, this is annoying. This sucks. This is the worst thing ever in my day. And it's amazing. If you're there with a notepad and pen and a listening ear, not only is it giving them huge value because they've just shared a problem shared is a problem halved.
Nice.
But you've just now got pages of notes that will literally make you millions and millions of dollars because they're the problems that that industry and market will face. So that's a simple way to
go. So if you want to give another final example of our accountant.
Yeah. So this is how we kind of came up with this idea. So our accountant gave us a cold call one day and he said, hey, your name popped up in conversation the other day with mutual contact, prompted me to reach out. How you doing? Good. And he asked me this question, how's things going with your current accountant? And of course I said, fine. I didn't know I had any really problems. And he goes, yeah, I'm doing some research, man. I'm like kind of digging around and I'm finding that, a lot of the time when people are working with their accountant, that they're finding 3 main challenges. Number 1, you only ever hear from or talk to your accountant when you've got either a bill to pay of theirs or you have tax to pay. Number 2, you don't really have a good insight on where your cash is coming inside out. So you know where to invest and where you can budget and ultimately where you can, grow your business. And the third thing is that there's no conversation around R&D funds, grants available for money that you can use from the government to drive your business. So I was curious, is that happening for you too? And of course, guess what I say? Now that you say it, yeah, I only ever hear from my accountant when I've got a tax to pay or a bill to pay. What investments? Free money? Hang on, what, who? Yeah, we should catch up for a coffee sometime. I'd love to learn more about your business. That's what happened. He's our accountant today, has been for years. He was just digging. And the thing is that he didn't know he was doing this. All he was genuinely doing was research. He was like, I want to know what's going on in my industry. He discovered one of the best prospecting / we turned it into the 3-headed monster. It worked.
Funny thing is, Steve, we went back and trained his accountancy firm on it 12 months later. on the three-headed monster, which it's essentially he came up with, which was great. Yeah, it's awesome.
It's good. So that's how you want to do it. So what you want to do is you want to start figuring out, and do this as a team tomorrow. Do this with your own notes. Ring 5 of your best clients tomorrow and ask them, man, what are your top problems? What's going on? And when you can nail the top 3 problems that your particular industry and persona, because remember, it might change with multiple personas. Example, in the projects game, the architect that you're trying to influence who specifies the project has a different 3-headed monster than the tier 1 builder that you're trying to subcontract to. What we're trying to help you with here is teaching you how to fish, because it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Your market has problems and you exist to solve them.
Yep.
So when you
the market exists because it has problems.
And the market exists because it has problems.
Yep.
And so to know it and to know the top 3 gives you such an edge. It gives you such an edge that is refreshing to the buyer, but ultimately it also allows you to disqualify buyers early as well. We're not even going to get into it today, but when you know, I'm going to give you a little value stack here.
Go for it, Steve.
I want you to know
rant. We got time.
I'm going to rant for a sec. I want you to know something, team. If you want that word no back in your vocabulary, 2 things you need to have nailed. Who is your ideal client and what are their top 3 problems? Because if you don't have that map of the world to go looking through, you'll say yes to nearly anything that looks like $1. But when you know your ideal client and you know their top 3 problems, you can say, hey, Das, straight off the bat, typically clients come to us because of yada, yada, yada. I was curious if you got that going on. And if they're like, nah, I just need your price. Oh, mate, doesn't sound like we can give you any value here. And you can deselect that client. You tell them, man, if you don't have those problems, we're not going to be a fit. I'll tell you that straight from the get. If you don't have those 2 things in place, you'll find that near impossible to say that, because you won't have a map to measure it up against.
Love it, mate.
You'll forever go, it's not perfect, but I'm a bit behind target for the month. So I'm gonna say yes to this. All right, yeah. All right, let's go. All of a sudden they're like, so here's my problem. I need a knee construction. And you're like, all right. I sell websites, bro. Like, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry we've gone this far.
Yeah.
We're not a fit anymore. And this is a problem. People take on clients that were never a fit. You could have figured that out ages ago. If you're like, here's my ideal client and here are their top 3 problems. Do you match up? And if you don't, you're not for us.
What do you think, Steve, is the belief that leads to people taking on anyone and everyone?
Scarcity.
Go on.
They don't believe that the market is big enough to be selective.
Thoughts on where that?
Go ahead. Reword that. They falsely believe that the market isn't big enough for them to be selective. What's so silly about this is I've sat on client calls with PwC and all of these big old, big 4 consulting firms that literally go out and study a market size. And so often businesses think they've got way more market share than they do. And then they go on these exercises and they spend $1 gazillion with the PwC to actually go out and survey the market. And they come back and they realize, guys, we're literally 0.7% of the market.
And they thought they were 30%.
They thought
20%.
I thought I had 40% of the market. You're like, no, you don't. There's deals going on all day, every day that you don't even know about. And so you first have to unwind this belief that the market isn't big enough for you to pick a particular niche. What it's equivalent to is saying, I'm an apple tree, but I see the banana tree over there. So I need to try and start growing bananas too, because I see every now and then they also want a banana. No, bro, be the best damn apple tree you can ever be. And beyond that, be the best Granny Smith apple tree you can ever be.
Yeah, nice.
And you'll have more than enough people lining up at your door saying, I love Granny Smith apples and you're the best. It's really that simple. And the analogy we always use, the market is so big. Do you know there's $27 trillion circulating the planet every 24 hours?
I do know that, Steve.
$17 trillion circulating the planet every 24 hours.
I do know that, but that is such a high number that if anyone says they can comprehend that, they're a liar.
They can't. So here's how I get you to realize this, because we've all comprehended something that big. Team, let us know in the chat if you've ever stood beside the beach and you've looked out at the vast massiveness of the ocean and just had a glimpse of a comprehension that you can only even see to the horizon. And then that's it. The market team, $17 trillion is the ocean. You're going to it with a bucket and you're thinking that you taking a bucket out of the ocean's going to cry out to you and go, where did that go? That's how big 17 trillion is. So it's meant to be incomprehensible. That's the point you realize that me going into a scarcity mindset is the dumbest thing I can ever do in this life.
Yeah. And Josh just said it fills up again in the morning. Like when it rains, it's just bang straight back in there again.
Exactly. And if they run out, they just print more of the stuff. It's not, it's if you're going into this world with a scarcity mindset, you've essentially lost the battle before you've even begun. It's so much about realizing, and the way you do this, team, and I don't even need you to put it in the chat, just write it down for yourself. What's your monthly sales target this month? And then what I want you to do is I want you to open up like an Excel document and I want you to type in how many zeros is a trillion.
Yeah.
And then I want you to put your sales target versus that. There it is. Look at how big that is. And that's every day.
Wow.
So that's every day. So multiply that by 30 days. And that's what we're talking about is a global economy.
Wow.
And then you just associate your little bit with that and it's nothing.
I'm glad we went on the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Nice.
Love it.
Love it. Valuable. Just a yes in the chat. We're heading into the final third now of the webinar. How are we doing? Is our whiskey still topped up? We're good. Gold. Yes. Just give us some feedback. We've been talking for a while. Give us a yes. Give us a keep going. Give us a love it. Give us a whatever you like. I love it. Terry Barhart has just written a Y. That's it. Just a Y. Just a Y. That's all it needs from Terry. Love it. Hope you're well, Terry, by the way. It's been ages. What we want to dive into now, team, is taking, for those of you, hey, just put a yes in the chat or a Y. Terry, you can put your Y now. Your Y is warranted. Henning has just done a Y already. I love it. He does it most times, I've noticed. If you attended the Cognitive Dissonance Psychology of Sales 1.0 last time that we did it, let us know if you actually did attend that. Yeah, great. So many of you will have attended that webinar that really went deep into cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, of course, being the whole concept of here's where we are now, here's where we want to be. The gap between those two places is called a problem. It was so much fun, Steve. That webinar, we'll always have the recording of that webinar for anyone who wants to watch this. For anyone right now in the future watching this webinar and you're enjoying it and you're like, oh, I wish I could get my hands on that, please just email us. Email Steve, email Das. We'll send you the recording of Psychology of Sales 1.0 and you can just have it. What this webinar now is about is really, if you'll allow us to indulge a story about ourselves, is turning really salespeople into like me when I buy a car. So team, please put a yes in the chat again. We've asked for more yeses in the chat than any whiskey webinar ever. If you are a car person, please put it in the chat. Anyone who puts a yes, I'm about to lose friends. I apologize. Like if you love cars, Dustin says frothing for the analogy, Das. That's great. If you love cars, if cars are your thing, you're a big fan. Okay, great. I'm not a car fan. I hope we can still be friends after this, but the truth of the matter is this: I don't care what car you drive. I don't care what car I drive. As long as my car could take me for a drive out to the mountains and I can look underneath the stars and just like put a tent out, I'm happy, I'm good. I'm not a car man. So anyway, recently I went in to buy a car, probably over the last 8 or 9 months. For those of you that have heard this story, it's great, but we've got to include it in the webinar because it's part of the recording. I went and bought this car, Ford white SUV. Her name's Belinda and she's beautiful. Thank you very much. And I walked up to the guy on the car yard. I said, mate, I'd like to take your car. I'd like to take that one right there. He said, Das, I can't really let you take that car unless you take it for a test drive. I said, I don't need to take it for a test drive. All I need to know is this. If I open the hood, I don't need to know what goes on underneath there. All I need to know is that I can slam that thing back on down, get back in the front seat, put my phone, connect it to the iPod, press play, and it'll be able to handle this one song that I need it to play. And you know what's interesting, Steve? No one's ever asked what that song is. No one's ever wanted to know. So you know what? You don't get to find out. Forget it. Oh, I can handle it. It was Sister by the Black Keys. It's fine. So don't stop believing. Oh, I wish, Andrew, if you've seen the end of The Sopranos. So all I need to know is that when I plug my phone in and I press play, that it can handle that song. And if I put my foot on the accelerator, the thing is going to go. Okay, that's all I need to know. That's it. Now, what we realized is that salespeople are much the same as I am when I'm buying a car. When we talk psychology of sales, we love the stuff. But a lot of the time when we talk about psychology of sales 1.0, it was like, wow, there's a lot here. It's like a fire hydrant coming in, Steve. And essentially what we get is we get like, well, I'll catch that bit. I'll catch that bit. I'll catch that bit. And I might use that there, but I don't really know where any of this goes. Please put a yes in the chat if you found that with psychology of sales 1.0. You're like, fascinating, entertaining, love it, boys. Love the whiskey that went with it. And it's cool, but I'm wondering where I sort of start to put it. Okay. What we've realized is we really want to put something in that allows you to go, okay, if I put my foot on the accelerator, this thing's going to go. And if I really take my foot off the accelerator, it'll stop. But if I put my phone into the speaker system, this thing's going to blow and it's going to rock and it's going to love it and it's going to be good. But I don't need to know how any of it works. That's the key. And so that's what we've created with Psychology of Sales 2.0, is turning this into a 4-step process that makes this really simple for you. It's 4 simple questions that you can ask, that upon asking them, the whole thing's going to be running for you. And you don't really need to know what goes on underneath the hood. If you do want to know what goes on underneath the hood, Psychology of Sales 1.0. Would you say, Steve?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
If you want to know the backstory.
Yes.
So that's it. But if you want to take a note, team, what you want to be writing down here, BCOP.
Josh just said it's now being shown in schools. Gold recording.
I love it. Yeah. BCOP is what you want it burnt into your brains for the rest of your life. BCOP. BCOP, 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 BCOP. It's funny, Das, because it's a principle you can take into your sales career forever. Like it won't change because it's built on psychology, and that hasn't changed either.
Yeah,
so it's really cool. So it's a gift that keeps on giving. And for those that have already heard about BCOP, enjoy this next 30 minutes because we're going deep. We're going deeper into BCOP than probably you've ever maybe seen before, because it's a simple model, but within that simplicity is you can take it as far as you want as well. But this is something that you can absolutely use and also make yours, which I'm personally really excited about. Like you can add your own flavor to this. It's such a simple thing that you can use to have as a basic underlying framework. Add your little 2 cents to it. Add your own flavor to it. Add your own style to it. That's where the magic really comes. Das.
Here he
You
is.
shotted the B, and I'm about to hit the B. So
yeah, love it. Little Black Submarines. Good one, Eddie. Good to know you're a fan. One of the greatest Black Keys songs. However, I will say to you, Eddie, don't you think it represents, or what's the word? Don't you think it sounds a little bit like Stairway to Heaven, the whole chord progression of it? Anyway, maybe that's why it's such a good song. All right, let's go for it. So team, the first question here is called, what's the backstory? And the backstory is essentially, it's this, team. There is a funny thing that comes with when we get to tell our story, or when we get to let people know our intention of why we're doing what we're doing, why we did what we did, how we do what we do, okay? Ultimately, what comes with it is a sense of understanding that we can't get any other way. Please put a yes in the chat if you've experienced this. Have you ever made a massive mistake in your life, or you really embarrassed yourself at a party or something like that? And the only thing that you can find yourself thinking is going, man, if only people knew, if people only knew why I did that or why I said that when I said that, people would fully understand why I did it and all of this would be okay. Has anyone ever had that experience? Or am I the only freak in the room? Am I the only one that's ever made a fool of myself at a party like that? I hope not, right? there tends to come these times where we're like, if only people knew my intention. That's the thing when it comes to this sort of experience, is this. We tend to judge others by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions. And the reason we judge ourselves by our intentions is because we know the context that we have come from. When we know that people understand us and understand the context from where we've come from, we create a very rapid and genuine relationship with them that we really can't get anywhere else. I'm going to show you how this is true. Context is created, and context is so powerful when we ask what's the backstory to a question, what's the backstory to a project, when we ask what's the backstory as a question, because it gives us context, and context is all. I'll show you how this is true. The other day, many of you will have heard this story before. The other day, Steve and I were playing a bit of golf. I'll say this, Stephen, here's the thing. I have told this story on so many calls with our clients that you have not been here for. And I have been able to run you through the mud.
Is that when my ears burn every
Yeah, your
time?
ears burn at like that particular time. Shout out to the Welltex team. I think they heard this recently as well.
Now I know. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. Okay,
yeah, love it.
Looking forward to it.
I've been smashing Steve on the golf course a lot lately. And it's true, isn't it, Steve?
It's
just say yes.
Flipping true. It's absolutely true. He's playing well, team.
And I've been putting in the work. I've been out on the course. I've been playing a lot of golf. I've spent about $600 on wedges. Like it's crazy, right? Now, the other day we're at the golf course and essentially Steve, really, he was one shot behind me on the 17th hole. For those of you that know golf, you know that's a pretty close game. It's as close as it gets. And anyway, Steve finds himself on the green with a putt from 4 feet away that if he's to nail this putt, will go into the final hole, the 18th hole, tied up, where he has the chance to potentially make a comeback victory. And he hasn't beat me in a long time. So we're here on the 17th hole. And Steve has contracted a nickname on the golf course, which is Stevie 4-foot. And he contracted the nickname largely because if anyone plays golf, you'll understand that a 4-foot putt, sometimes you'd rather be putting from 40 feet. Because from 40 feet, at least it allows you to be like, look, I'm just going to have a go at this. But from 4 foot, you should nail that putt every time. So when you're standing over it, all of a sudden the hole starts to look a lot smaller. You feel like it's raised out to 14 feet. Your knees start to shake and your arms start to wobble. And you're just like, it's such a little putt. Just put it in. I can't miss this one, can I? It's just got to go in the hole, right? So Steve has made a bit of a habit, if you don't mind me saying, Steve, to the lovely people on the webinar, he's made a bit of a habit of missing these putts pretty much every single time.
You're killing me.
So he's contracted the nickname Stevie 4-foot. And so whenever the ball comes up to the hole and it's 4 feet away, we're like, oh, Stevie 4-foot, here he is again. Go ahead, mate, putt your putt, right? And so anyway, he does. He lines up over the putt and he's standing over it. And he knows that if he misses this one, it's yet another one that he's missed. Standing over the putt, and even like a little bead of sweat starts to drip down his nose, like probably dropped onto his putter. Probably felt like blood at the time to him, even though it was only sweat. He's sitting there going, oh man, oh boy, what's going to happen here? And so he starts to bring the putter back. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this guy just comes running past, bolts right past us in his Speedos on the golf course, out of nowhere. What the hell's going on there? What the heck are we doing? What's with that? We go to the beer after. We did have a beer after, but then we went to the beach after. We're sitting there at the beach and we're, just enjoying a coffee there at the beach and enjoying it, watching the waves go past, talking about the round that we had, talking about business, whatever it is. And we're just sitting there talking. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this guy just runs past at the beach with his Speedos on. And the key to realize is this, team, one of those stories is weirder than the other. And of course, when we look at the golf course example and we see someone running past in their Speedos, we're like, that's not normal. That's not okay. Something needs to change there. The reason is because it was out of context. That's what makes the story weird. Someone at the beach in their Speedos is completely normal. And so what changed? All that changed was the setting. All that changed was the environment. All that changed was the intention of where and how we were. And that's ultimately what this question gives us. We ask, what's the backstory? Because it helps us get intention, helps us get understanding of our buyer, and helps us understand the context of why they're bringing their decision to us. What's the backstory is one way to ask it. And then we've heard, Steve, from a lot of clients, especially in the UK, that that's like not a term. What's the backstory is just not a term that is used. So if that's the case for you, Aussies get it. We ask it all the time. The other way you can ask it is, what's the story? The other way you can ask it is, can you give me some background on this? But ultimately what it allows us to do is have the understanding of where they're coming from. And if they have the chance to tell their story, they'll feel understood because you know their context. Super powerful. Anything you want to add there, Steve?
Oh, mate, everyone's laughing at my golfing ability. The main thing that you can add to this to make it like crank up on steroids is the hot tip at the top. Like, go digging in their website, go click on every single link, about us page, careers page, everything that you can possibly find, LinkedIn searches, whatever it may be. And it's so easy because we have such a visible public life now.
Yeah, true.
If you wanted, like literally, if you wanted to go searching, you can find out a lot about people before you even start. You really can a lot of the time.
Yep.
So by doing that, it even adds to this, right? So an example would be, I go digging on my prospect's website and have a real good hunt around before we make some contact. And I go, hey, Das, I see that you guys have like doing heaps in that like bridge space. Like you did a fair bit in Sydney, you did a bit in Melbourne. I see you're even in New Zealand. And when did you guys get into that? What's the story around that? Have you always specialized there, or is that something you noticed recently? You know, your buyer is going to grab onto that thread and keep pulling. And
it's
one,
the
it
chance
shows
to talk about themselves as
give
well.
them an opportunity to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
And so if you want to make it even more fluid and easy, do a bit of prior research and then like kind of prime that in the backstory as well. But it even works even better if you are lucky enough to have inbound. So if you got leads coming in, they're like, hey, Das, can you send me over your best price on ABC? Your response will be,
yeah, sure. Yeah, too easy. What's the backstory on this one?
yeah, what's the story? Tell us. Well, and watch them go. And it's so damn easy. I think, Kurt, you put in the chat before, like it is a bit of a mindset shift. But once you get in the habit of, okay, before we even start, I want to know the context. I want to know the history. I want to know what's happened before now. It can give you so much gold to work with. We start every conversation here. Hey, Das, like all the time. Every conversation starts here. What's the story? Tell us about it.
What's the backstory?
What's the backstory? Yeah. What's been going on? And away we go. So the three areas, if you want to get super practical, the three areas that you can get backstories on is the project or the deal itself. So that's when you're working on a particular specific problem. You can get some backstory to that. That's the project or the deal itself. You can get some backstory on the company. Every company has an origin story. Every company has a history. By the way, if you're listening to this webinar as a leader, as a founder, as a director, and you haven't told your market your origin story, you're missing out on massive, massive, massive leverage for your brand, particularly for those that are sitting here and you're like, we've had a brand for 30, 40 years. Mate, you've got so many rich stories through that are valuable to the market, right? But it's the same on the other side. Your buyer has a rich history. Ask them about it. The other way you can do it is their own personal backstory. And one of the easiest ways to do this practically, again, I want to give you practical tips today. Go to their LinkedIn, have a look at all the different places they've worked at and ask about the story between transition. Hey, Das, I see before you came into Bravo that you were doing a lot of you were doing the tonal persuasion method. What led to the change between that to that, man?
I would be so happy to tell that story if anyone ever asked me on a call.
Totally.
Yeah.
Same with me. Hey, Steve, I see you used to do like Equip Consulting and now you're doing Why Bravo. Like, what's the story there, man?
Yep.
Hey, I see you used to be at ABC company for like 7, 8, 9, 10 years. And now you've moved over to ABC company recently. What's the story? Anytime there's a transition in life, there's a story.
Nice.
You used to live here. Now you live here.
Oh, I love this. Kurt's just said the other thing you can ask is you've worked at the same place for 15 years. What's the story there?
Oh, that's awesome, Kurt. I've never considered that. That's awesome, man. That's a great way of doing it. Love that, mate. That's such a good one, right? So it's about a little bit of research and then saying, tell me about that. What's the story? We're quite deliberate in using the word story, does?
Yes.
Because it kind of commands a long answer. Okay, no story has ever been told that's 5 words. Hey, why'd you change? Decided to. That will never happen. So when you say, hey, what's the story with that? They'll always give you the version. And every story follows the hero's journey. And the hero's journey is everything was sweet. I was going out along life. And then I had this grand idea that I was going to go and do something. And then I was met with great challenge and tragedy. And that's where I really had to learn some stuff and overcome that. And then overcoming that challenge, I came out bigger and better person. It's like a heartbeat all the time. Every story follows that narrative. And so this is the things we like telling. No one likes telling the story of everything was perfect, the end.
Yeah. I went to work and then I went home after work.
Yeah. There's little around that. It's always a longer version and there'll always be this travesty. And transitions are like that. Why'd you move from England to Australia? I guarantee it's this. Why'd you move from that company to that company? I guarantee it's this. It's always that. And so when you can open up that conversation, don't be surprised, and this is where we're leading to, when you frame the conversation based on context, history, why, tell me the story, give me some context, you know that it's going to go up. And just wait for it. You sit there long enough with the listening ear, you know it's going to do what?
Yeah.
And then this happened. And then this happened. But we got faced with that. I was sick of working by myself. I had to move for my family. We get hit with that. We nearly went broke. We decided to innovate. All of life's stories is based on I hit that and then I decided to do this. That's
nice.
exciting to us.
Yep.
So this is the power of backstory. This is the bit that maybe we haven't done enough like hitting dust. The reason we ask the backstory is it's the perfect setup for the fall.
Yes. Yes. Good call.
Because a story has to have a challenge. Find me any story that does not have a challenge to overcome. And remember where all value comes from, team? Solving problems, solving challenges, fixing the great travesty that they're finding themselves in. So you can't lose because you know a story has to follow that pattern. So that's why we ask backstory. We've had one of our clients say, so are you just saying this so do you get the backstory so you get this like feeling of commonality? No, you ask the backstory because you know the challenge is just around the corner.
Perfect segue into question 2.
Which is it.
Love it.
Lloyd, what's the backstory to this black and white photo on the slide? Well, that's history. That's context. That's what you want to be thinking about when you're looking at the human. What's their genealogy? Where did they come from?
Second question, team, is what are the challenges that we're facing? This is a rather straightforward question, and it really lends itself to a lot of the topic of what this webinar has been about. So the way we ask this one is, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to? And you want to basically insert your industry, your company, or your three-headed monster even right there, okay? The three-headed monster, by the way, you don't have to use that at any particular point. Usually it's used really well at the start, but it could come into effect here, okay? Another way we ask this is, what problems are you running into? And ultimately what we get here is the first point that our buyer gets to say, yeah, really the challenge that we're having is blah, or what we're running into is blah, or we just keep struggling with X and we heard you might be able to help. The more that we get to explore those challenges with them, the better. And the key here with it is this. As Steve's put here as the hot tip, notepads and pens are your best friends. What that means is this, team. It takes a whole lot longer to write than it does speak. It takes a whole lot longer to write than it does speak. Therefore, if your buyers start speaking and you're writing down what they're saying, you'll still be writing by the time they finish their sentence. Meaning we're going to be in what, Steve?
Silence.
Silence. And human beings hate silence. So if you're still writing, one of you is going to fill the silence. But if you're still writing, you're kind of occupied. You're still at work. So most likely, what do you think is going to happen, team? Your buyer is going to fill that void by continuing to talk about their challenges. The more they talk about their challenges, the more you let them. Allow them to talk. Roll out the red carpet and just say, you have at it. You tell me about all the challenges you've got. If you have to sit there on the phone for 2 hours hearing about their challenges, you go for it. The more they talk about their problems, the more they are becoming likely to buy. Not only buy, the more they'll pay for the solution because the challenge has just gotten greater. The hunger has just gotten greater, therefore the sandwich now looks more attractive. Okay? So what are your biggest challenges when it comes to your industry? What problems are you running into is another way of asking it. Anything else to add there, Steve?
We put the Rubik's Cube photo on there deliberately. Think of it like your client is holding a Rubik's Cube and they're trying to solve it themselves, but they can't. And that's how you want to kind of view it. Like, where are you getting stuck, Das? Where are you getting tripped up? Where is it that I want to know? And so that's what you really want to be thinking about here. Imagine that they're already doing it in a way. Your job is to figure out where they're getting stuck. Where is it not working out well for them? Where are the friction? Where's those friction points? And then going deeper in on that, taking heaps of notes, because you're going to be using these notes in your proposals. You're going to be using these notes in your follow-ups. You're going to be using these notes to essentially create the whole scenario for your deal. If you've dove straight into proposal phase,
if you've divin straight into proposal
phase, and like literally try it on this week. Have a look at your top 5 deals. Do you know the backstory? And do you know their challenges? If the answer is no, what you've done is you've driven straight towards, here's my offer, here's my sandwich. I hope you're hungry enough.
Yeah, nice.
Just to start piecing together the different pieces there. So it's a good one.
Yep.
Simple one. This one normally comes pretty easily if you do backstory well. Half the time,
naturally leads itself into it.
I would say 50% of the time, if you do backstory well, they'll naturally lead themselves into challenge territory.
Yeah, good. Question 3, team, we actually don't have a ton for you on this one. It's a really straightforward question to ask. Question 3 is this, it's all about outcomes. Question 3 is, what outcomes are you looking for? What does success look like for us here? How do you know when you'll have achieved the goal? What is it you're ultimately looking for? What is it you want? Really, really just basic questions. We say this is a basic question because this is actually the question that people love to ask. This is the easy question to ask, isn't it, Steve? Yep. What do you want? Like,
what are you looking for?
What are you actually after? That's easy. This whole webinar is about how to ask not this, meaning it shows and uncovers what you can ask to be problem-centric. This one question, outcome-related questions, is really quite the opposite. It's really just, what do you want? What are you here for? Okay, now the main thing that goes with this, to remember this, team, is people are looking for an outcome that is owning or having your product. What they're looking for is what your product is going to give them. They don't care about having the hammer and the nail. They care about having the picture hanging on the wall. That's the outcome that they want. So if ever you get stuck on the point of, yeah, we can send you our pump, we can send you our balustrade, we can send you our window, we can send you our car, we can send you all of these things. It's not necessarily just that they're after. They're after what that can do for them. The more we talk about what that will do for them, the more, again, the brain is lit up, because it's like, yes, you're talking about me again. Yeah, the product, but remember me, that's what the brain wants to think. Yeah, okay.
The golden rule here, Gus, I agree with you. This is the easiest one of it all. I think the actual practical tip here, if you want to write something down, problem first, outcome second.
Nice.
That's it. I think we dive to outcome way too easily, and we're like, Das, what do you want, mate? That actually, your response after that question could be exactly the same. But if we first diagnosed the problem and then said, all right, Das, okay, cool. So what is it that you want? You could have said exactly the same thing, but because you have the contrast in your mind, what you've just said the second time is way more valuable.
Yep.
And so the golden rule, like if you want to take a note, stick it on your computer screen tomorrow. Problem first, outcome second.
Yep.
And if you follow that rule, you're going to have the same conversations that you're already having here. You're already doing this well, I'd imagine. Cool.
Josh just said practical example here, Steve.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so ask me.
He said practical example here, please, Stephen, which is great to see.
Yeah, and I got a PH, so that's.
Yeah.
What do you want from me, Das? Give me an example of something that you would want.
I want from you a new golf club.
Love it, Das. So here's your practical example. So Das comes to me and says, Steve, I'd like a new
golf club.
Das, tell us. Bit of the backstory. What brought you here?
Yeah, so I bought clubs 5 years ago off eBay. They're pretty good, but I just really haven't updated them in any way. And I've noticed that from around about 100 meters in, I don't really have anything to fit the bill.
No, tell me more about that. So you're noticing it's mostly like that, like that short iron range?
That's it. It's like I'm 100 meters out and my pitching wedge goes 150 meters.
Yeah.
But then from 100 in, I'm kind of like have to do a pitching wedge from like 70%. And it just, everything goes out. It's a mess.
Yeah. So how's it playing out for you? Are you missing greens? Are you shooting left? Are you going right? You're going short? You're going long? How's it playing out?
I would hit 1 out of 10 greens. That's embarrassing to me.
That must be costing you game, mate.
That's one word for it. Yeah. I'm about to snap my pitching wedge is another way of saying it.
Nice. So what is it you're looking for in the clubs? What is it that you're actually here for?
I want to know that I can have a club that I can fully commit to. So nothing changes about my swing, but it's just that the club is different. So the ball just goes higher up in the air.
Got it. We're looking for loft.
Nice.
We don't have to go further. Das could have come and said, so now let's do the same thing, but I'll skip backstory and challenge.
Yeah.
Das, hey, how's it going? It's Steve Golf Club World.
SteveGolfClubWorld.com. SteveGolfClubWorld.com speaking. How can I help you at your GolfClubWorld.com?
Mate, what do you want? What can I help you with?
I'm after a club. I'm after a new club.
Nice. Yeah. And is there anything that in particular you're interested in?
Yeah, just having a look around.
Nice, mate. Yeah. So we've got a few different clubs. We've got Titleist, we've got Callaway, we've got Strixon, we've got heaps of different types, mate. So yeah, really, what are you really hoping for, you know?
Yeah, just hoping for something that can sort of help me I actually don't know how to answer that question. Like Unless we had the conversation before, I would be lost right now, especially with 68 different clubs sitting in front of me.
How dumb does
Probably
it
choose
sound?
one. Yeah,
It
sounds silly.
dumb. Like once you fall in love with problem-centric selling, you realize how dumb it is just to be a product seller talking about all the good stuff and diving straight to outcome.
Yeah.
Das could have said exactly the same thing. I want loft. I want loft. He could have said, I want a club that gives me good loft. He could have said exactly the same thing, right? But now I've got the context that he's missing. He's hitting 1 in 10 greens. It's costing his handicap. You know, if we pressed into that now, when I put a club in Darcy's hand and go, this is going to give you loft, man. And this is going to increase the accuracy of you hitting greens. Darcy's going to be like, I see the problem it's solving for me now.
Nice.
He's picturing himself on the golf club, 100 out, 150 out, and sticking the green.
Nice.
So that's the practical example of if you dive straight to outcome, it does sound cringe.
Yeah.
It always sounds cringe.
Yep. Because it sounds Sally.
It's hoping you're going to land on the right thing.
Yep. Nice. Nice. Team, final one here, question 4, and this is the final sort of slide of the content side of things, is what's the process on your end from here? What does the process look like on your end? What's the process from here? Anyone else you'd like looped in? Anything, any question that alludes to, okay, so from here, how is this going to go from your end? Okay. Now, the reason we ask this question, it's a very interesting one. The reason we ask this question is to avoid the classic, or we've written it there, is the dreaded, it's a done deal, we've just got to wait. Okay. How that sounds is this. Team, put a yes in the chat if you've ever experienced this. You call up a client that you've sent, say, a proposal to last week, and they said, hey, send the proposal over. We'll give it a signature, mate. It's all good. It's a done deal. Done deal. We're good. Right? You call them up on the Monday and you're like, hey, Steve, Darcy here for golfer.com. Just wondering how you went with the proposal. Steve says something like, yeah, Darcy, yeah. No. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. We're good. We're good to go. Like, we'll sign on it. It's just that, Barry's on holiday and Barry gets back, I think it's early December, which is end of next week. When he gets back, he'll have a chat with Sandra and Barry and Sandra will sign off it, mate. But yeah, it's all good. Like, you're good. It's a done deal. And you hang up the phone going, that is not a done deal. That's 30% closed at best. I thought this was in my pipeline. I thought this was done. I thought I had the tick on the box. I thought I had the name on the board. I was done. Turns out you didn't have it at all, right? Now, when we ask the question, what's the process on your end from here? We would have got all of that information. But here's the thing, Steve. Could we have ever changed Barry going on holiday? Would that ever have changed?
Nope.
We have no control over that. But what we do have, team, is the ability to go, okay, so Barry, Sandra, and then the person I'm working with, Steve. Okay, now I have that information and I can start an email thread with them. And I can say, hey, Steve, Barry, Sandra, great to connect. I've spoken with Steve on this one. He said it's good to go, but I just wanted to start this email thread just to make sure we're all taken care of here. If you have any questions, let me know. Reply directly on the email thread. We'll make sure you're taken care of, right? That's one way you can go about it. The other way you can go about it is making sure you're connected with everyone on LinkedIn is another way to go. All of this simply allows you to have information at your fingertips that you can use that you wouldn't have had otherwise. Yeah. Okay. Now, when you have that information at your fingertips, you can utilize it to make sure the deal is solid. If the deal's not solid, you'll get those responses back of like, yeah, no, it's solid. You know that's not solid. You know what is solid is, yeah, hey, listen, we're keen. From here, Barry and Sandra will need to be taken care of as well. I'm 90% sure they'll say yes, but let's just get some conversation going here to make sure this is solidified up. Too easy, mate. I'll start the email thread. We'll get this sorted. You know, when Barry comes back from holiday, your chances of closing the deal have gone through the roof. Is it ever 100% sure? Absolutely not. Nothing ever is. But has the chances gone up? You betcha. Okay. And that's the key with what's the process. Remember here with this team, when you ask what's the backstory, don't be surprised if they tell you their challenges. When they tell you their challenges, don't be surprised if they tell you the outcome that they want. All of that can get taken care of with just one question. What's the backstory, or what's the background, or what's the story from here? This question, what's the process on your end? No one will ever, no one will ever tell you off their own bat.
You have to ask.
You need to ask this question. So powerful when you do, and gives you so much information to work with when you do as well.
I think it's so bang on. Like, if you want to take BCOP, the B and the P, put those two together, BP.
Yeah, the
it is
bookends.
it is like fuel.
Yeah.
Like the fuel station, right? Like it B for backstory, P for process. If you're consciously and deliberately starting your conversation with backstory, ending your conversation with process, it is the ultimate bookend. It really is. And it's the thing you need to do deliberately.
Yes.
That's the deliberate part. That's where mastery comes. So at this
Team,
point,
we have giveaways. This is all yours,
giveaways.
Steve. No, the stage is all yours. Hey, put a yes in the chat. How's the webinar been for you? Aha moments, light bulbs, let us know. Put it in the chat. Anything that you took away, we always love to know. Oh, Robin said best yet. I'll take that. That's great feedback.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Love it. Thanks, Robin. Good on you.
Love it. So team, to help you put this all together, we've been working on a little like end of year giveaway. And so some of you are already on the list, which is really, really cool.
It is Shani. Yeah, to answer your question, yes.
Some of you still grab access to this. So what we put together is an outbound desk plan, a deal planner. We've got these printing. I think they're already printed. I think they're ready to go.
Yeah.
It's like an A3 desk planner with like 50 rip-off sheets that you can use to sit on your desk to help you put all of this into practice. So if you're like, man, I really would like to do this well. And on the 7+ touch point planner, for those that were here for last month's Whiskey webinar, talking about creative outbound strategies, you're going to know how to do all of those things. But these are ways to get creative and make sure you got enough people involved, making sure you're taking notes, making sure you're writing the notes of the backstory, the challenge, the outcome, and the process, and what your goals are for today. We'd love to send you one for free. So if you're in Australia, all you need to do is email julia@ybravo.com.
I got it here, Steve. It's all good. Yes, it is. It is. So it's a pretty funny story, team. When we originally did these, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah.
We joked that Julia doesn't know it's coming yet. So flood her inbox and make her day. It'll be funny because it'll blow up and she'll have to deal with it and we'll like sort it all out. So it's great. So we've sort of let her know recently that we think all the desk planners are done. We think we can have one final influx. She knows the webinar is tonight, so she'll have an idea of what's happened. It'll be pretty funny. So if you email, just Steve's put it in there. So we've got julia@ybravo.com with your name, your address, and to make it easy on her, let's say your name, your address, and why Julia is a brilliant person. It'll make her day and it'll soften the blow for it. Now, that is for people who are in Australia only. We've fully printed them already. We did have some going out to the UK. We had some going out to New Zealand. So they're done. We're all good. We can send you the PDF. If you're still interested, let us know. We'll send you the PDF so you can print it yourself. But with the Australian ones, we've just got literally ones there ready to go into parts of Australia. New Zealand is not part of Australia, Gemma. I apologize. Our cricket team wins tournaments. Yours does not. And so there's a big difference there. It hurts. So we've got julia@ybravo.com with your name, your address, and why Julia is a brilliant person. So we'll get them sent out. I believe a lot of people actually will have already requested those, Steve. Many people on this webinar have already got it. But if you haven't yet,
if you want a PDF, same thing. Just email Julia and be like, hey, I'd love a PDF copy of the desk planner. You can print these out and have them on your desk. Second
thing, team, is we have for you the Outbound game. We'll put questions there. Please keep questions coming in the chat as we go. Feel free to go for it. The second thing that we want to offer you is, of course, the Outbound game. Now, basically, I'm going to guess 99% of people on this webinar have heard of or are already playing the Outbound game to drive motivation and productivity in the team. Basically, what we want to, Dale said, unfriending Das, I'll take that. What we want to let you guys know is that with the Outbound game, we are really at the point now where this thing is starting to scale. It's starting to grow. It's now in 5 countries, which is something that we're humbled by, Steve, is one way to say it. Shout out to those. I know I can see a lot of people in the chat right now who have actually claimed prizes through the reward store. Shout out Dale Faulkner. Congratulations on your recent claim. And basically, it's brilliant. It's so good to see that salespeople all over the world are playing the Outbound game to drive their productivity, drive their motivation, send their numbers through the roof. Now, what we're starting to find, Steve, is a lot of people are reaching out saying, hey guys, can you help us set up a sprint for 2022?
Yeah, we're working on KPIs. We're working on our numbers. Can you help us?
Yeah, and that seems to be a common problem, doesn't it, Steve? Is people are going, we know what we want to achieve. It's just that we don't know the KPIs that are going to help us get there. And then once we have the KPIs, how to ensure that the team are hitting them?
How do we set the numbers? How do we even know what's right?
And then motivate the productivity to actually achieve it. And so that's really what the Outbound game has been designed to help you with. The offer that is currently available for you, and this won't be available come January 2022, is this. Onboarding into the Outbound game is 5,500 plus GST. Now, that's AUD. Now that gets you onto the platform with your entire team booked in, you're good to go. All consulting that we can help you with will happen through the Outbound game, including a call with Steve and I with the leadership team and a call with your team to actually get them set up onto the platform to help them with their motivation and productivity. Okay, super powerful stuff. We won't go too deep into it, but that's probably for another webinar. But what we want to offer you is this. Those that signed up, and many teams that are currently on this webinar at the moment that are currently using the Outbound game, many leaders on this have been given a launch code that has knocked 33%, a whole 33% off their entire team's monthly subscriptions for their entire life on the platform. Okay. So it's usually $29 per user per month for the life on the platform. 33% off knocks it down to something like, I don't know, Steve, 21, 22 or something, somewhere around that stage, right? For your life on the platform. And we do that because we want to reward early action takers and as our way of saying thank you for supporting the growth of the platform as it continues to, well, ideally take over the world, isn't it, Steve? That's the goal at the end of the day. So if you are thinking like you'd like to become a part of the Outbound game, don't even talk to us. Have a chat to anyone playing the game. Yeah. Let them tell you the experience that they're having, because really their word is so much better than ours. We are just the guys who are lucky enough to create the thing, humbled and grateful every single day that this idea was passed, from wherever to us. We are very, very thankful and grateful for that. If you want to jump into the game and you want to play, don't talk to us because we're just going to tell you to play the game. And of course we're going to tell you that because we're salespeople. We're the guys selling the thing. Go talk to, there's people out there like Jaden Faulkner. I know Josh Wiggins is there. Josh Stanners is out there. All of them, legends that are playing the game, using it to their full extent. Have a chat to them. If they want to help you jump in, that's awesome. And would be a pleasure to have you on the platform.
For sure. So yeah, really for that, you get your full game set up for success, tailored completely to you and your business. You get me and Das on your team to essentially set up your game and help make it come to life with your team. And get those KPAs nailed, your incentive and rewards program nailed, and then the platform to drive all of that activity. So that's really what you're kind of investing in. So if you're planning next year, you might be a sales leader or a business owner, and you're like, yeah, I need to start getting ahead of the curve here. I want to plan out next year. I want to plan out, my where we're going, the activity, driving our team, getting it cranking. We're taking on like 20 clients between now and the end of the year only to get the next year, your 90-day sprint set up. So you've got a game ready to go and even a head start on it. You can start collecting coins now.
Yeah.
To start going ahead and smashing it. So yeah, we're really excited by it. So particularly for those that are HubSpot
and
Pipedrive users, and we are not far off plugging in open APIs in the forms of like a Zapier. So watch out, world. You'll be able to plug whatever you want into this thing to drive it, but both ways as well.
Can we say a quick thing here as well, Steve, is when it comes to the Outbound game is a massive thank you to all the people who are on this call right now. You know who you are, who are already on the platform. So just a bit of transparency here. Steve and I building this tech platform, we're consultants. Like I understand sales psychology, Steve understands sales strategy, and that's our jam. And so building this platform to basically technify, I've just made up a word there.
No, I like it.
I don't mind it, technify. Strategy and psychology in the one platform has been a journey for us. And it's something that we haven't been perfect at from the start. And we've learned so much about building technology is so much of a fall on your face 10 times, get up 11 process. We never thought it would be that way. And we've learned it. And people who have actually built tech before us have been like, boys, welcome to the journey. You've learned it, And every single user of this game, whenever we've had a glitch, whenever we've had a bug pop up, whatever it's been, every single user, and so many of them are on this call right now, we literally cannot say thank you enough for the support, for the understanding, for the growth of this thing, knowing that every day we continue to grow and we're investing so much into this for you to make it better for you. And every dollar that goes into it basically goes straight back into it again to make it better for the users. We say thank you because of you, it really is becoming a platform created by the users for the users.
Yes.
And to be playing our part in that is something we're extremely grateful for, is all I wanted to say. I don't want to, make a sell or a pitch of it. I just want to say thank you because the people on this call know exactly who they are.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, without you guys, the whole thing wouldn't exist. It's really, really cool. And done it. The final whiskey webinar for the year.
Yeah.
How good.
How about it? Bit of a tearjerker.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. For those that are part of our Record Breakers community, we've still got a few more episodes of that. I'll chuck that in the chat as well. Or Darcy can chuck it in the chat. So we do a little like tidbit every Tuesday morning for half an hour. We're going to be bringing on more whiskey webinars next year. We want to ramp it up a level. We've got some special guests already lined up from some of the biggest companies around the world. We want to take Record Breakers, which is our Tuesday sales huddle, free to attend. And we want to take our whiskey webinars, which you've just attended now, to the next level next year. And we are super pumped about it. We're bringing you some special guests. We're doing some collaborations. We're going to be doing more giveaways. It's going to be really cool. So if you've enjoyed this year, if you've enjoyed this season, so to speak, can't thank you enough for being a part of it all the way through. For some of our OG followers from like when we did Game Plan Daily, when COVID first hit, you're still here. You like massive thanks. It's been what a ride.
Awesome.
But we want to bring next year bigger, better. Yeah. And we're here for you. So thanks so much for hanging out, enjoying a whiskey. Hope you learned a lot this evening. Hope you had a few takeaways. Email Julia for your desk planner.
Yeah.
Bonus points if you give us some kudos.
Outbound Wines team is just darcy@ybravo.com and steve@ybravo.com. We'll put them in the chat for you.
And our website is outbound.game. www.outbound.game. All the information is there for you. You'll be able to check it all out. So love it.
Love it. Love your work, team. As always, anything we can do, shout out, say the word. We'll make sure you're taken care of.
Correct us. See you soon.
Cheers. Nice one,
Cheers.
Steve.